3. Hello and welcome to MIP TV. And with me, as always, is transactional analyst Bob Cook, who's going to talk us through yet another interesting aspect of transactional analysis, TA theory. And this is called script analysis. What's this about, Bob?
Okay, so a TA therapist, I'm going to reiterate something about a TA therapist. You can call yourself a TA therapist if you think about ego states, which we've talked about, transactional analysis proper, which is a theory of communication, which we've talked about, an understanding of game theory, which is repetitive patterns, which we've talked about, and an understanding of the knowledge of script theory. In other words, how people come into your therapy room and they will enact out the way they think about themselves, the world, and others, i.e. their script, enact out, attempt to manipulate you to follow the same script. In other words, to support a hopeless script, or to support a harmatic script, or to support an infantilized script, or even to support an alcohol script, or whatever it is, what they've decided about themselves and the world.
What's a harmatic script, Bob? Just remind us what that is.
That is when you harm yourself. So harming yourself, harming other people. It's a destructive script. It's usually ends up in self-harm or harming other people.
A harmatic script, that would be called, yes.
Yeah. So a TA therapist, can use ego state analysis, which we've talked about in an earlier video, to understand where the person's coming from, or analyzing a person's script. In other words, how they have developed their way of thinking about the world, themselves and other people, how they've become the way they are today, and how they're going to enact that out, right? So you've got an analysis of script, and therefore you need to know what is called script apparatus. And, I know. And, And what makes up the script apparatus of the person sitting in front of you? And that is an understanding of their injunctions, that's the no messages, the understanding of their drivers, that's yes messages, an understanding of the decisions they made early in life about themselves and other people, and how that gets enacted out in the world and the actual therapy room that's actually your own therapy room. So once you've started to get a bigger picture of these yes messages, no messages, their personal profile, their script, you're more likely to help the person transform their script into another type of script and get a different voyage on the road, if you like. But first of all, you're going to have a look at injunctions, you're going to have to look at drivers, and you're going to help them understand how they enact those ways of being in the world today in a way which probably doesn't help them anymore.
Yes, the injunctions are, just to remind everybody, injunctions are usually parental messages about how you should be, how you should behave, and sometimes more even darker messages about who you are and your worth in life.
That's right. And it's really important that the therapist and the client work that out together. Now, of course, the client is probably not aware of a lot of these messages, or they think they're acting in the here and now, but they're actually acting out these commands from their parents.
Yes.
And drivers, yes messages. You need to find out what sort of drivers the client is following. Like, are they attempting to be perfect for their mother and father? Are they attempting to try hard for significant other people?
Yes.
Are they, what is their driving mechanism that keeps these scripts going?
Yes.
So as you start to find these things out, you can explore between the two of you how this script, this way of operating, isn't helping you solving the problems today.
Yes. So as an example of that, you may have someone whose script, whose injunction was, you need to really try hard in your work, and you need to really get good grades at school and go to university and do your PhD and and that would then translate, that parental interject would then translate into the try hard driver, where you may have a client who's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and still feels that they're not being successful in life.
Yeah, and eventually leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And maybe a justifiable collapse.
Yeah.
So as you help the client understanding their life plan or their script, we like to call it, and understanding how that life plan that they decided all those years ago, which helped them survive their, parenting of origin, perhaps, doesn't actually help them today.
No.
As they start making those connections, they can take ownership of a different way of being, a different life plan, and get a different result.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And where in the arc of therapy would the script analysis come? Would this be near the beginning of therapy, in the middle of therapy, towards the end of it?
This is how it works. The client comes in the room. I know you are a TA therapist, will be very important, be very important in the script. But the first step is to build up the relationship, find out what the story is, and also find out what the contract is. How come they're there and what they want to change.
Yeah.
Right? As you start doing that, as you start learning about the clients and their story and how their past affects their present, you will start learning about the messages that the parents have programmed or passed down to them in terms of what they're allowed to do in their place of origin, or what they weren't allowed to do in their place of origin, and the decision, the life plan that the client embarked on, which was decided all those years ago. Now, that will happen in the first 10 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, you can then, the two of you, that's the client and the therapist, can start actually working out a plan on how the person can start changing their script and put a new one on the road.
Yeah. So if you think of it like directing the movie, the parents or the caregivers, maybe directors, directing a child how to act and live their life. And then the parents move out, the children grow up, but the children are still stuck with this direction. And that might not be helpful as a functioning adult. So what they need to do is be their own life directors and write their own scripts.
Correct, with the help of the therapist.
Yeah.
And that's a really big component of TA psychotherapy and how clinically that theory is used.
Yeah. I mean, that is interesting. And it is one of, as you say, it's one of the hallmarks of being a TA therapist, script analysis, believing and understanding and working with a client's life scripts. It's one of the things that I guess is with the other ones you've talked about, the ego states, games, is what actually defines a TA therapist.
Defines them, absolutely. Defines them. That's a good way to put it in. Because a TA therapist will be looking at how the past affects the present, and how it's enacted out in the therapy room, and the type of script, life plan that the client decided on all those years ago, which doesn't help them today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a very comprehensive explanation of life scripts, its importance within TA therapy. And if you are watching this, why don't check out the rest of the playlist where Bob goes and speaks about all aspects of TA, from the structural model of parent, adult, and child, right through, and we even covered two-chair work, a perennial one of interest for anybody in the world of therapy, how that works. There's some surprises in its history. But today we focused on scripts in TA. So Bob Cook, thank you very much.
Thank you.